Have you ever sat alone at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, looking out the window and wondering why some people, some of our friends, our siblings, even our spouses, don't make it far past 80? You think to yourself, he looked healthy, or she was still gardening last year, and then suddenly, gone. It doesn't make sense at first, but after all these years, I've come to realize something. Most of us aren't taken out by one big blow. We're worn down by little things, quiet things, invisible forces inside us, things no one warns you about. And by the time we notice what's wrong, the damage is already done. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because this may be the one conversation that changes everything. Because if we want to live well past 80, not just exist, but live with strength, clarity, and dignity, we need to know what we're really up against. And trust me, it's not just bad luck or old age. It's 4 hidden dangers working against us. In today's Elderly Reflections, I want to share the first 2 of those with you. These are things that creep into your life without asking, stay too long, and slowly chip away at your independence. And they don't care how good your blood work looks or how young you feel inside. But once you understand them, you'll see how to push back, how to take your strength and your future into your own hands. Let's start with the first one. It's something I'd never even heard of until I turned 80. But now I realize it's been quietly burning in a lot of us for decades. Doctors call it inflammation plus age, and it's one of the biggest reasons people don't stay strong after 80. See, most of us think inflammation is what happens when we sprain an ankle or cut our finger and it swells. But this is different. This is low-grade, chronic inflammation that happens deep inside the body. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't swell, you don't even notice it. But it's slowly damaging your cells, your blood vessels, your joints, even your brain. And here's the thing. After 80, our bodies stop handling it like they used to. When we were 50 or 60, we could eat those salty chips, or skip a few nights of sleep and bounce back. But now, those same habits feed the fire, and the fire gets hotter the older we get. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Ronald. He was 82, didn't smoke, didn't drink, walked every morning at sunrise, seemed sharp, seemed steady. But he kept complaining he felt tired, foggy. His joints ached, even on good days. His family thought maybe it was just age catching up. But when he finally saw a specialist, the tests showed high levels of inflammation markers. Nothing serious on the surface. No cancer, no heart attack, no major diagnosis. Just this silent flame inside his body, burning for years, slowly draining his energy, weakening his resilience, aging him from the inside out. And the worst part? He had no idea. This type of inflammation is caused by years of stress, processed foods, poor sleep, long periods of sitting, and exposure to toxins. Things that seem harmless until they pile up. And after 80, your body doesn't recover like it used to. That little bag of cookies every night, that habit of falling asleep in front of the TV, they start to matter more than they ever did. And yet, here's the good news. Fighting inflammation doesn't require some miracle pill. It's simple. Eat more real food, fruits, vegetables, things that come from the earth. Take walks, even if it's just to the mailbox and back. Stretch your body, get sunlight in the morning and dim lights in the evening. Every little change helps lower that flame. And when the fire dies down, your strength comes back, your mind clears, you feel more like yourself again. Now let's move on to the second reason most people struggle to live well after 80. And this one, well, it hits hard because it creeps up slowly, and before you know it, it's taken something precious from you. I'm talking about muscle loss. The medical word is sarcopenia, but what it really means is the strength you had in your legs, in your back, in your arms, it starts disappearing year after year. Even if you don't see it in the mirror, you feel it. It's the reason you struggle to stand up from a chair, the reason stairs suddenly feel steeper, the reason you hesitate before carrying the groceries. And the truth is, muscle loss after 80 is fast. If we're not careful, we lose it even faster from simply sitting too much or spending a few days in bed with the flu. I think about Helen. She was 83, used to dance in her younger days, still moved gracefully even at 80. But something changed in the last few years. She stopped going to her garden, said her knees felt a little shaky. Then she stopped using the stairs. One afternoon, she slipped on a rug and broke her hip. A small fall, big consequences. She spent nearly 2 months in bed, and by the time she stood up again, her body was weaker than ever. That's how muscle loss works. It doesn't just take away strength, it takes away independence. It takes away confidence, and suddenly you find yourself needing help for things you used to do without thinking. But here's what most people don't know. Muscle isn't just about strength. It protects your balance. It keeps your metabolism working. It even helps regulate your blood sugar and supports brain function. When you lose muscle, your body becomes more fragile. One fall can lead to a walker. The walker leads to less movement, and less movement leads to more weakness. It's a downward spiral. But again, the power to fight back is in your hands. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. You just need to stay active. Walk every day, even around the living room if that's what it takes. Use light weights or resistance bands. Helen's grandson, a physical therapist, helped her build up her strength again. They started small, just standing during commercials. A few squats, a few stretches, a little protein smoothie in the morning. After a few months, she felt steadier. After a year, she didn't need the walker anymore. That's the lesson right there. Your body's not done at 80. Still listening, still responding. You just need to give it the right signals. Movement, nutrition, rest, not just to live longer, but to live better. Because the way I see it, growing older isn't about giving up. It's about getting smart, using what you've learned, taking back what still belongs to you, your strength, your purpose, your peace. Now, before we continue, where we'll gently uncover two more silent threats to well-being, fading sleep and the quiet ache of loneliness. I want to pause and say this. If anything you've heard here stirred something within you, if it brought to mind someone you care about, or perhaps even yourself, I encourage you to take 3 small steps. First, subscribe to Elderly Reflections. It's a growing community built on wisdom. And just before we end, tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from? What part of the world holds your memories, your moments, your reflections? I'd love to know, because this isn't just a channel. This is a conversation between people who've lived, who've learned, and who aren't ready to fade quietly. Not yet. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's never too late to start protecting your future. You know, when I was younger, I never gave much thought to sleep. I stayed up late, worked long hours, sometimes drank a bit too much coffee. Sleep was something I thought you could catch up on later. But the truth is, after 80, later doesn't exist the way it used to. Your body doesn't recover the same. And sleep, real, deep, healing sleep, is no longer just a luxury. It becomes your lifeline. The third silent danger that steals life after 80 is something so many of us overlook because we think it's just part of getting old. But it's not. It's poor sleep. And I'm not talking about missing a few hours once in a while. I'm talking about the chronic kind, where you go to bed tired but can't fall asleep. Or you fall asleep quickly, only to wake up 3, 4, even 5 times a night. And then you start your day groggy, disconnected, unmotivated. At first, it feels harmless. You shrug it off. You tell yourself it's just age. But over time, this kind of sleep disruption begins to chip away at your mind, your mood, your immune system. And that's when the real trouble starts. Let me share a story. Alice, 86 years old, lived alone in a quiet house tucked into the edge of town. She was sharp, proud, and fiercely independent. She always said she slept enough, but when her daughter came to visit one week, she noticed something strange. Alice kept repeating herself. She seemed more tired than usual, snapped at her grandkids over little things, forgot where she left the kettle twice in one day. Her daughter got worried and convinced her to see a doctor. Turns out, Alice wasn't getting into deep sleep at all. She was falling asleep, yes, but waking up every hour. Her brain wasn't able to go into the restorative stage. The stage where memory gets sorted, where healing happens, where the body resets. That constant light sleep was leaving her immune system weakened, her brain foggy, and her emotions unpredictable. This isn't rare. As we age, our sleep cycles change. Melatonin drops, the bladder gets more active at night, muscles ache more in bed, anxiety creeps in during the dark hours. It becomes harder to stay asleep, and harder still to feel refreshed even when we do. And the cost is huge. Poor sleep has been linked to higher rates of dementia, depression, diabetes, even heart problems. You think you're just tired, but your whole system is struggling to repair itself. Now, here's the truth most folks don't want to admit. Many of us assume this is just part of getting old. We settle, we accept it, we stop trying to improve our sleep. But I'll tell you something, you don't have to. You don't have to live in that fog. There are small, simple things that make a difference. Keeping a regular sleep schedule, avoiding caffeine after lunch, getting outside in the morning for natural light, making your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet, using a weighted blanket, turning off screens an hour before bed. Even soft stretching or a warm herbal tea in the evening can help prepare the mind to slow down. You might not sleep like a teenager again, but that's not the goal. The goal is restorative sleep. Sleep that lets your body do what it was designed to do: heal, protect, and strengthen you from the inside out. Let me ask you something now. When was the last time you woke up feeling clear-headed and full of energy? If it's been a while, maybe it's time to stop accepting poor sleep as normal and start treating it like medicine. Because after 80, sleep isn't just about rest, it's your fuel, and without it, everything else begins to unravel. That leads us to the fourth reason, maybe the most important one of all. It's not something you'll see in a blood test. It doesn't come with a warning label or a prescription, but it has the power to shorten your life faster than almost any disease. And that, my friend, is loneliness. I don't mean just being alone. I mean the deep, aching kind of loneliness that makes a person feel invisible, unneeded, forgotten. You can be surrounded by people and still feel this kind of loneliness. You can have family that loves you, calls you on the holidays, sends cards, and still feel like no one really sees you. It happened to Bill. He's 89 now. His wife passed away 5 years ago. His children live out of state, and though they try to call, it's never quite the same as hearing a voice in the room or feeling a hand on your shoulder. He cooks for himself, watches TV to pass the time, keeps the house tidy. But some days, he told me, he goes from sunrise to sunset without hearing his own name spoken aloud. Not because no one cares, but because the world has moved on without him. And what he misses most? It's not the noise, not the events, not the activity. It's that feeling of being needed, of knowing that someone, somewhere is waiting for him, that his presence matters. This kind of emotional isolation isn't just sad, it's physically dangerous. Studies have shown that social isolation increases the risk of premature death just as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness has been linked to heart disease, immune decline, cognitive deterioration, and even early mortality. Why? Because the body responds to loneliness like a threat. Stress hormones rise, sleep quality drops, inflammation increases, the immune system weakens. Over time, the body starts to give up because it believes it's no longer needed. But here's where things change. Purpose doesn't have to mean a job. It doesn't have to mean grandchildren or travel or big projects. Sometimes purpose is as simple as watering your plants, feeding the birds, writing a letter to an old friend, calling someone who needs to hear your voice, praying for your community, smiling at your neighbor. Purpose is what makes you feel like you matter. And when you feel like you matter, your body listens. Your mind wakes up, your heart beats steadier. And that, my friend, is how we fight back against the quiet fate of isolation. Let me start with something that many families miss. You look at your mother, your father, maybe your partner, and they just seem off, more tired than usual, a little more confused. Maybe they've been in bed more or not finishing their meals. You take their temperature, normal, nothing obviously wrong. But then suddenly they've got a urinary tract infection or pneumonia or shingles, and it hits like a freight train. You wonder, how did it get this bad this fast? But in reality, the signs were there all along. The fifth danger we need to talk about is a weakened immune system. Now, some people think this happens overnight, that one day your immune system is strong and the next it gives up. But it doesn't work like that. Our immune defenses begin to fade slowly as we age. And by the time we hit 80, the body can't fight off infections the way it once did. What used to be a simple cold now lingers for weeks. A small scrape on the arm heals slowly, or not at all. A little bug turns into a big problem. And the scary part? These infections don't always show up the way we expect. In younger folks, a fever is a clear sign something's wrong. But in someone over 80, the first sign might be confusion, or sleeping more, or losing interest in food. That's how subtle it is. The body just doesn't respond with the same fire. I remember a neighbor, Joyce. She was 87, still baking cookies for her grandkids, still full of life. Then one week she got quieter, sat more, didn't eat her lunch. Her daughter thought maybe it was depression or grief, but it wasn't. It was pneumonia. And by the time they caught it, her lungs were in trouble. She passed 3 days later. Not because anyone did anything wrong, but because the warning signs were whispers, not alarms. If you're noticing frequent infections in someone over 80, things like UTIs, colds that linger, sores that won't heal, or just an overall slowing down, pay attention. Their immune system may be running on fumes. And yes, there are things you can do to help. Keep the home clean but not sterile. Make sure they're hydrated, Support good gut health with probiotic-rich foods like yogurt or kefir. Help them get outside. Fresh air and sunlight still work wonders. And keep vaccinations up to date. Not just flu, but shingles, pneumonia, and anything else their doctor recommends. These simple steps can mean the difference between catching a cold and ending up in the ER. Now let's talk about the final sign, the one that often comes last, but speaks volumes if we know how to listen. It has to do with how we breathe and how our blood flows. This one, I admit, is hard to witness, but it matters. As the body nears the end of life, whether it's months, weeks, or days, something starts to change. You'll notice the hands feel colder, the feet look a little purple. Their nose or ears might turn pale or even bluish. That's circulation slowing down. The heart isn't pumping as strongly anymore, and the body begins to prioritize blood flow to the core organs. It's not a crisis, it's just nature's way of winding things down. Then comes the breath. Maybe you've seen it before. The person starts breathing in shallow patterns, slower, quieter. Sometimes they pause between breaths. Other times they'll breathe fast for a moment, then stop for several seconds. It can be unsettling to watch, but it's common. In fact, there's a name for it, Cheyne-Stokes respiration, and it's one of the clearest signs. I remember sitting by my brother Henry's bed. He was 90. Tough man, farmer his whole life. That last week, his breath started to change. At first, it was just slower. Then it got irregular. His skin was cool, his legs heavy. But he was still there, still listening, still holding my hand. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. We just sat. The hardest part wasn't the breathing, it was letting go of the idea that he was still supposed to fight. Because at some point, peace becomes more important than trying to push the body beyond what it can give. And that right there is the lesson in all of this. Aging isn't about escaping death. It's about meeting it with dignity, with understanding, with clarity. There are transitions, messages, clues. And if we can read them early, we can soften the landing. We can prepare. We can focus not on adding years to our life, but life to our years. So if you've made it this far in the series, let me say this. You're not just watching a video. You're part of something bigger now. A generation of people who still care, who still learn, who still want to live with meaning, even in the quietest years of life. This is Elderly Reflections. And whether you're 61 or 91, you still have something to give, and something worth protecting. Before we end, I want to ask you for 3 things. First, if this series spoke to you, please subscribe. I'm not here to chase numbers. I'm here to build a space for reflection, for health, for senior strength and peace. Second, click the bell icon so you don't miss our upcoming episodes. We'll be diving into topics like dignity and caregiving, emotional resilience, and how to build daily purpose even if you're homebound. And third, I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me, where are you watching from? What part of the world holds your story? Whether it's the Midwest, a quiet village in Maine, a retirement home in Arizona, or a small apartment in Brooklyn, your voice belongs here.